How you doing? When you hear this phrase, you probably think of that sweet Italian actor who constantly eats, gets a Thanksgiving turkey stuck on his head, tries to understand the world by buying only the V volume of the encyclopedia, speaks fake French by making up sounds, chases women, and isn't exactly the brightest bulb, right? A guy naive enough to let himself get locked inside an entertainment unit. A man who believes he has to actually step into the map to enter London. If you think Joey Tribbiani is just the sole comedic relief of the Friends series, the naive, slightly ignorant, and foolish boy of the group who refuses to grow up, I'm sorry, but you've watched the entire show completely wrong. You've only seen the foam on the surface and missed the depth of the ocean. Forget everything you know. Forget all the prejudices those background laugh tracks made you feel. Because today on Scene Atlas, we are dropping the masks. In just a few minutes, I am going to prove to you that Joey Tribbiani was actually the smartest, most manipulative, most emotionally intelligent person in that group of 6 friends, and the sole person who determined the ending of the show. Yes, you heard that right. When I lay out that dark, selfless, and unbelievable secret hiding behind his famous stupidity at the end of this video, you will never be able to look at a single Friends episode, Joey's blank stares, or his move point joke the same way again. But before we get to that big secret and the mind game Joey masterfully played, if you don't want to miss these shocking behind-the-scenes truths of the cinema and television world, pause the video right now, subscribe to the Scene Atlas channel, and smash that notification bell. If you're ready, we are entering the complex and hidden brain of Joey Tribbiani. Who is Joey Tribbiani? His real name is Joseph Francis Tribbiani Jr. Born in New York to an Italian family, raised in a crowded and loud household as the only boy among 7 sisters. Keep this detail in mind because it is impossible for a man who grew up listening to the troubles of 7 women and wiping their tears to be emotionally ignorant. However, on the surface, Joey's character relies on a very simple equation: sandwiches, women, the New York Knicks, and endless, often humiliating, failed acting auditions. Look back at the early seasons. Joey starts off as a total cliche. Entering our lives as Chandler's roommate, this guy is seemingly there just to create a contrast to Chandler's sharp wit and cynical sarcasm, forming a sort of dumb and smart duo. The more neurotic, anxious, and traumatized Chandler is, the more relaxed, carefree, and living in the moment Joey is. But nobody had yet fallen into the massive trap the writers and Matt LeBlanc's brilliant acting had been carefully setting for us since day one. But what was that trap? Why did they make us believe for 10 years that Joey was just a fool to laugh at? Wait, we are stepping towards that big truth step by step. First, let's dive into his professional psychology. Think about that acting career of Joey's we always made fun of. From being Al Pacino's butt double to being the poster boy for a citywide syphilis ad campaign. From an exclusive blue lipstick commercial for men in Japan to the famous Dr. Drake Ramore who died falling down an elevator shaft. And even starring opposite a ridiculous robot in the show Mac and CHEESE. We just laughed out loud at these. But when you pull back the curtain, Joey is actually the only character in the show who chases his dreams the most relentlessly and fearlessly. Ross was already a prestigious paleontologist and the golden boy his whole life. Monica was a successful chef, even if driven by her parents' pressure, and always knew what she wanted. Chandler, well, nobody exactly knew what Chandler did. Was he a transponster? But it was certain he made good money and had a steady income. But Joey? Joey literally started from zero. He starved for months. Chandler paid his bills. He went to hundreds of auditions and got rejected countless times. He heard phrases like, "You're not talented enough," "You're too short," "Your face isn't right," from ruthless casting directors over and over again, but he never, ever gave up. After every no, he picked up that script the next morning and stood in front of the mirror again. This brutal cycle of rejection, which would drag a normal person into severe depression, anxiety, and a crisis of self-confidence, couldn't even leave a scratch on Joey's soul. Right here, the first piece of that big picture I mentioned reveals itself. A terrifying emotional resilience, a psychology of steel, and an unshakable dedication. This blind dedication to his profession and the way he shouldered rejection on those broad shoulders was actually just a small rehearsal for his true superpower in human relationships. We've reached the middle of the video, and I'm very close to revealing that big secret. But if what I've told you so far has changed your perspective on Joey even a little bit, if you've started to see the unshakable will and depth hiding beneath those superficial and silly jokes, it is the exact time to hit that subscribe button below. Because here at Scene Atlas, we don't just scratch the surface of characters, we dissect their bleeding souls. If you subscribed, let's keep moving toward dropping the real bomb. What is Joey's most prominent, most iconic trait? That famous line, "Joey doesn't share food." He's a guy with the potential to break his friend's hand over a slice of pizza, a psychopath who can walk out on a date just because she touched his fries. But what about his love? What did this man who wouldn't share his food, his sacred meatball subs to save his life, sacrifice when it came to his true friends? Remember that famous 5th season? He was the first to find out about Monica and Chandler's secret relationship that started in London. He trampled his own reputation, his much boasted playboy image, his intelligence, and even his moral stance without blinking an eye, just so their relationship wouldn't be exposed immediately, so that delicate love could continue to blossom without being crushed by the pressure of others. He made up the lie that there was a hidden camera in his apartment. He took the fall as a creep by pretending a woman's underwear was forgotten in his room because of Chandler's mistake. While everyone looked at him in disgust, he absorbed all that humiliation like a sponge, saying, "I'm Joey, I'm disgusting," and didn't bat an eye. Why? Just so 2 of his friends could be a little happier. There's more. Who was the silent lightning rod between Ross and Rachel's endless, exhausting, all-consuming toxic relationship? Joey, who listened to and calmed both sides after every fight. What about when he fell madly in love with Rachel? Remember how he suppressed his own feelings and those silent tears just so he wouldn't get between Ross and Rachel, risking his own heart being broken and shattered into pieces? When Phoebe was pregnant, who made a pact to not eat meat with her so her vegan beliefs wouldn't be shaken and she wouldn't feel bad? Just not eating meat? A man whose meaning of life, whose reason for existence is food, made the hardest sacrifice in the world without a second thought. Again, Joey. Now take a deep breath. Let's combine all these sacrifices with that steel-like psychology built on rejections. It's time to keep the promise I made you at the beginning. Why was Joey Tribbiani actually the smartest, most empathetic, and most self-aware member of the group? Why did he play the fool for us and even his friends for 10 years? In psychology and family therapy, there is a very critical concept called the group dynamics protector. Some people subconsciously take on the persona the group needs the most to prevent a friend group or a fragile, traumatic family from falling apart. By sacrificing themselves and taking on that invisible role, they maintain the system's balance. Look very closely at the friends group. Beneath those cheerful laughs, they are all broken characters. Ross is an obsessive, validation-addicted man crushed by the pressure of being his parents' golden boy. Monica is a woman who thinks she doesn't deserve to be loved due to her mother's endless, cruel criticism, turning her into a control-freak perfectionist. Chandler is a man who relives his parents' traumatic divorce every Thanksgiving, is deathly afraid of intimacy and abandonment, and uses humor purely as a shield to hide his pain. Rachel is a spoiled princess who lived her whole life in a golden cage, has no idea how to deal with the real world, and is like a fish out of water just learning to stand on her own 2 feet. And Phoebe? Well, her mother committed suicide, her stepdad went to prison, she grew up on the streets. She is pure chaos trying to cling to life. If everyone in this group were adults constantly talking about their own trauma, if everyone focused on their own problems and competed with each other, that famous Central Perk group would have definitely fallen apart by the end of season 1 at the latest. That coffee shop would have turned into a therapy center, and those apartments into battlefields. Joey instinctively knew this thanks to the incredible empathy he gained from growing up with 7 sisters. He was the group's thermostat. Did the room get too tense? Joey asks a stupid question and clears the air. Is someone too sad? Joey humiliates himself to make them laugh. Here is the big secret Joey hid for years. Joey intentionally didn't grow up. Joey deliberately chose to remain the irresponsible, foolish child of the group so that the other 5 could grow up, get married, learn from their mistakes, build careers, overcome their traumas, have children, and safely go their own ways. He took on the role of the funny, non-judgmental, simple guy who makes the world seem like it's just about sandwiches, absorbing everyone's stress so the others could carry their heavy psychological burdens more easily. He wasn't stupid, he was a selfless balancer. He was the group's shock absorber. Notice this, in that heartbreaking, magnificent finale of the show, as everyone builds their own nests and sets sail for their new lives, as Monica and Chandler move to the suburbs, as Rachel and Ross finally unite to become a family with their child, as Phoebe is married to Mike, as they take turns leaving the keys to that legendary purple-doored apartment on the kitchen counter and leave, who was the only one left behind? Just Joey, because his mission was over. He had guided those 5 broken friends, whom he saw as his family, through those stormy years of youth and brought them all safely to port. Just like a parent keeping their young in the nest until they learn to fly, he sacrificed his own coming-of-age story for their happiness. He wasn't a stupid playboy like you thought. He was the invisible glue that held the Central Perk 6 together for 10 years, sacrificing himself. His famous pouty, "How you doing?" wasn't actually a cheap pickup line for women. It was a heartfelt message he secretly asked his friends every morning. "How are you? Are you okay? Don't worry, I'm always here." The next time you watch Joey's famous blank stares on screen, his pretending not to understand and scratching his head, that absurd scene where he puts a turkey on his head, or those moments he babbles, "It's a moo point." It's like a cow's opinion. It doesn't matter. Remember the big-hearted, lonely man hiding beneath those jokes, sacrificing his own loneliness for the crowd of his friends, who is actually an emotional genius. If this video fundamentally changed your perspective on Joey Tribbiani, that magnificent and misunderstood character, you know exactly what you need to do. Subscribe to the Scene Atlas channel right now, smash the like button, and send this video to that Friends addict friend of yours who rewatches the show tirelessly every year. Share it so everyone knows the real Joey. You've learned how Joey kept his friends together and how he gave up his own life. Okay, but what was the real, massive, and silent trauma within the group that caused Joey to make this colossal sacrifice? What is the dark secret hiding behind Chandler Bing's non-stop jokes, his sarcastic attitude of giving everyone nicknames, a secret that terrified even Joey for years? Why is Chandler, the guy we laughed out loud at for 10 seasons, actually the most tragic, most wounded character of the entire show? If you want to find out, click the Who is Chandler Bing video appearing on the screen right now. Because believe me, everything you know about Chandler is nothing but a big lie, a masterful illusion he created to protect himself. Click and learn the truth. See you there. Goodbye.